Good morning, friends, and welcome to the Johnson City Living Podcast, where we learn about the people, places, events, and flavors that make Johnson City a lovely place to live. I'm your host, Colin Johnson, with the Colin and Carly Group and Keller Realty. It is a unbelievably beautiful fall day here in Johnson City. The leaves continue to just take my breath away. Everywhere I look, God's glory is just lighting up the hillsides and yards, and leaves are falling, and kids are trick-or-treating, and it's just been an awesome fall, so you need to come check it out. And you need to come meet my new friend, Dustin Schlegel. He is a husband, father, friend, and runs Reliance Appliance. So if you need something fixed, bought, broken, whatever, he can come and do it. So welcome to the podcast, Dustin. I am so glad to see you again.
Yeah, we've met before.
Yeah. We were walking in, and he was like, "I've been to your house." I was like, "Oh." That's cool. Usually I say I've been to your house because I go show houses all the time. I've been in everybody's house,
yeah.
but
usually I see people in their houses to fix their appliances.
Yes.
But in this case, it wasn't.
Yeah, I was like, dryer maybe? No, I don't know. So I'm glad you let me off the hook and said yes. It was for a Redstone event, and I said kiddingly, glad we ran you off and you haven't been back, but. We would, I'm glad you.
I just moved away. It's
you
not
moved
your
away.
fault. It's not your fault.
Gotcha. Well, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Johnson City Living. The first question everybody gets is, what's your favorite thing about Johnson City?
Well, honestly, I mean, we kind of picked this area, when we were planning on where to move in the country. So it's lived up to our expectations. We wanted to kind of like that more community-based hometown feel. Mm-hmm. And I go into people's houses all the time. I can tell you that it's a genuine thing.
Yeah.
People here, they really care about their neighbors, and that's what I love about this place.
We do love our neighbors well. I think we're called to do that, and we do it, I think, really well. And if you want to leave a Google review, maybe it was you who did start the first Google review 6 years ago, because you came to town then and said, "Man, this place is awesome." I don't know, Johnson City Google reviews or Amazon. I don't know where it was, but now we've got thousands of people moving here, and it's just like they're flocking. And so you guys from California, how did you choose Johnson City?
Well, there was a stepping stone in between there. We lived in Colorado.
Okay.
But, me and my wife.
Well, it's in between. I get it. You got to stop over. It's a long drive.
Well, to start from the very beginning, I lived in the Santa Anas in Southern California, in the Inland Empire, kind of the foothills of the Santa Ana Mountains. And then
never heard that.
My wife and I met at Hume Lake Christian Camps. It's up in the Sequoia National Forest area, Kings Canyon area.
Cool.
And I worked there for about a couple years, and then she moved back to where I lived, and when she saw where I lived, she cried. So we moved to Colorado.
It was that nice.
Well, yeah, where I lived, it was kind of, let's just say it was an unsavory place. So
gotcha.
We moved to Colorado. We lived there for about 8 years or so, and then
where in Colorado were you?
We lived in Thornton. We originally lived in Fort Collins, but we lived in Thornton. It's about 20 minutes north of Denver.
Okay.
And I was working out of Denver.
Yeah.
I'd eventually got into appliance repair, worked my way up in that company, and worked there for probably about 6 years, working on appliances, management, you name it. And let's just say Colorado outgrew us. It was a very... there was a large demographic change there. During the recession, they had a really big economy boom. They were number one economy in the country during that time. So people just kept flooding there. And then they legalized marijuana, and then that had a more outflow of people in the area. So when we were living there, we basically couldn't afford to get a bigger place, and we had 2 more kids.
Gotcha.
So it was just one of those things where we bought a condo for $89,000.
Nice.
Lived there for 3 years and sold it for $174,000.
That's a pretty good return.
Yeah, it's a great return. Yeah, I mean, obviously.
But then you're like, where are we going to go?
Yeah, and
we can't take that $179 and turn around and buy the same condo. But can't. Yeah, so
our family of 3 turned into a family of 6. And then it's like, okay, well, we need a bigger place, but we couldn't afford it. We started shopping the whole country, right? And I was like, what if we moved up north? Because, like Montana, Utah sounds great. And she's like, too cold. And then she's like, what about Texas? I'm like, too hot. It's so I work outside, I work on appliances and, so anyway, we just drove a line down the middle. And the one thing that we found in common that we both liked is we love the mountains, right?
Okay.
So she showed me the Appalachians, a few pictures. So
Uh-huh.
I started shopping that whole area, like,
Yeah.
North Carolina, Virginia,
Yeah.
the whole, you name it. And I just started looking at laws and, cost of living,
Taxes.
taxes, everything. And, without us talking with one another, we wrote a list. And I wrote Tennessee on the top of my list, and she wrote Tennessee on the top of her list. So our moving out here was even more crazy than that.
And Tennessee's huge.
Yeah.
So Memphis is 500 miles west.
Yeah.
Could have moved to Tennessee there. You could have been in Nashville, Knoxville. How'd you choose it? Just because of the mountains? Like Sevierville has mountains?
No, I had a whole bunch of friends that lived just north of Nashville.
Uh-huh.
Family friends that I grew up with.
Yeah.
We were in small group with one another, My cousin lived there, and we went there and we're like, oh, we really want to see the mountains,
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job at all. So we sold our place, paid off my student loans, which is great.
Nice.
And then we just put everything in a 9x12 trailer in our Suburban and drove out here.
Oh, wow.
And I was applying I had a few job interviews lined up, but no one would give me an interview over the phone. They all wanted to meet in person, that, small town feel. So
Pre-COVID.
Yeah, pre-COVID, yeah, for sure. Now I'm sure they have different.
Yeah, you Zoom it
standards
all day long. Yeah.
But we were down in Gatlinburg,
Mm-hmm.
and I really wanted to end up in the Tri-Cities. That was my bullseye. So I just started calling appliance repair places. I said, hey, can I come in for an interview Friday?
Yeah.
And pulled my vehicle into the back of where I was applying at, walked in for my interview. I even told the guy that was interviewing me, everything I own and my family is behind the building. And then he's like, well, you seem pretty serious. You're hired.
Yeah. You seem committed.
Yeah, and I worked there. I worked at that company for several years.
That's hilarious.
It was a good experience, but I honestly just wanted to be able to provide a service where I was able to be a little bit over a more administrative role over that. So.
Well, you said I could ask you anything, so let me dive in a little bit, because there are people probably considering moving across the country or across a long way. And tell me about your walk with the Lord and how you processed the move to Johnson City. Like, how did that work out for you guys, especially with your wife too? Because sometimes you can be like, I feel like we need to go here, and the other spouse may be like, I don't know about that, And
well, obviously it was a God thing for us. I feel like Johnson City kind of chose us, in the Tri-Cities or whatever. But it was one thing that was really important to us was that my wife, she stays at home with our kids. We homeschool, and we wanted to continue that lifestyle.
Yeah.
That was really important to us. So we were trying to find a place where I could bring income in and still live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I think overall, I think that we were able to put our family first and do it in a manner that our community looked out for us. I mean, the first couple years that we lived here, we really didn't know a whole lot of people. But my wife, she had a death in her family, and a lot of our church friends picked up for us and actually watched our kids while we went to Colorado for the funeral, which was, that's something that I'm not really super comfortable with, but it was crazy that we had people in our lives that were so easily adopted into our lives that were willing to look out for us. And them, Gary and Karen, they were the ones that did that for us.
I can't believe you left your kids with them. But
this is before they had their own kid too.
Yeah, right. They didn't even they practiced on yours for Wyatt. So that's awesome. And he was on the podcast last week. So if you listen to the last episode, you can learn all about Gary Ellis and Outpost Roasters. So isn't that cool, like how you come from an area and you don't know anybody, and then you get into, I think it's the body of Christ, and so the body of the church, and you find people that just love you like family, and you trust them enough to leave your 4 kids with them. I mean, that's pretty beautiful, I think. And
yeah, I mean, we were in small group, and it wasn't like we were just like, hey, nice to meet you, dropped our kids off.
You had a relationship, obviously. They'd seen you, and you'd seen them, and you know where they live, kind of thing. But yeah, I think it's still just cool, because we had some friends at church take care of another child for a week when some mission, like they had childcare that fell through, and they were going on a mission trip to Honduras, and like last minute the parents couldn't take care of the kids, and so a couple from church said, "We'll take care of your son for a week," and it was just, and he's like 3, so it was beautiful, and it's just neat to hear that over and over. So that's cool.
Life happens, and that's what community's for.
Yeah.
So,
where are you going to church now?
I go to East River Park now.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And is that in Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. It's that. I mean, I'm sorry I didn't. That
It's okay. It's the Johnson City Living podcast. We'll talk about Elizabeth, and those are our neighbors to the west a little bit. So.
Yeah. But yeah, it's
East.
about 10 minutes from my house, so it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, Redstone's missing you, but that's okay. I get it. 10 minutes is an easy commute, especially with 4 getting out the door.
Yeah.
Okay, so you worked for an appliance guy. You came in, everything's in tow, and you worked for him for how long did you say, or that company?
I worked for them for in between 5 and 6 years.
Okay.
And that was helping me get through kind of like getting established here. Finding my house and doing all of that. That was a big role in that.
And so you must have had an appliance repair background because you said you drove to an appliance repair place.
Yeah, in
how
Denver.
Did you? Okay, so in Denver you did that. How'd you get into appliances? Like, because you said earlier that you were in a band in California, I think.
Yeah.
Right. And so tell us about the band a little bit, and then the transition from band to fixing dryers and refrigerators.
I was in a screaming band. I don't know, I
think our listeners would love a little taste of it.
I don't know if I do that anymore, but that was several. I mean, I guess I was in that band in like 2004 or something.
Oh wow,
like that. Yeah. So, but anyway,
what was like? Did it have like Christian value music, or what kind of music?
That one was a secular band, but I have a lot of friends that were in Christian bands.
Yeah, our friend Matty Montgomery, who was on here, was in a
screaming
band too.
Yeah, I listened to him growing up. He probably knows these guys. Justin from the Great Commission. I used to go to his house and spend the night, and then Sleeping Giant. Me and my wife, when we were together, used to go to their church.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, if he is listening to the podcast, I know some people that he knows.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I'll send this one to him to listen.
Yeah, but
so you're in a band.
Yeah, I was in a band, but I've done everything. I've been working on cars since the 5th grade.
Oh, cool.
Our family car broke down, and I was wearing a dinosaur cast. That's how I know it was the 5th grade. And the alternator in the Walmart parking lot broke down, and that's when I started working on stuff.
Oh, wow.
And my dad was
super handy if he can change out an alternator in the Walmart parking lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, my dad was a tool and die maker. The
wow.
last company he worked for was a Maglite flashlight company in Ontario.
Oh, cool.
Every machine that made those LED new flashlights that they have, he made all of those machines.
He made the machines that make the flashlights.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, so I mean,
those guys blow me away. You look at something and the finished product, but you're like, oh, that's beautiful. You think it was just kind of like carved out, but no, there's some kind of machine that makes all that little. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah, and I mean, he hand makes that stuff.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it's an interesting field. But my grandfather was an electrician. My dad was a tool and die maker, and my last name Schlegel comes from a hammer. I don't know how I figured. My wife does our family tree
genealogy stuff.
Genealogy, and so anyway, my last name Schlegel comes from hammer, and my lineage was people that were smiths and masons. So it's like,
so you're basically Thor, really.
Yeah, I basically am made to do work on stuff. So, but yeah, the long and short of it is I did like all kinds of different jobs. I worked at a Nissan dealership installing radios. I worked at my older brother had a boat shop. I worked at was like one of my first jobs, but then I went into like retail, and I did retail management for a while. And eventually, what happened was I worked for Sports Authority. I don't know if you.
Yeah, I've heard of Sports Authority.
Yeah, they own the field, the Denver Broncos field. They bought that. I was there when they did that.
Oh, cool.
Well, the company no longer exists.
Oh.
So basically, what I was doing was I was kind of in a retail career. I worked in a 6-story tall sporting goods store on 10th and Broadway in downtown Denver, and I just realized that retail was not sustainable. It was very up and down. It was controlled by the market. So I looked at my past. I said, well, what did my dad and my grandfather do? And I said, well, I'm going to get into a trade.
Nice.
And I didn't have any real trade experience
other
than working on cars. So I just started shopping, and I said, the first place that offers me a job that will train me while I can provide an income, I'll go to, and I worked for Appliance Factory Mattress Kingdom for about six years based off of that decision. So
Appliance Factory Mattress Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of it.
They're one of the largest
appliance
places. I think they're like number 30 in the nation. And when I worked there, they were only in Colorado. So I mean, they move a lot of stuff. They do anywhere from repairs to selling new to used to dent and ding. And I mean, they had like 20 or 30 stores there.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I mean they were.
So there was always
big.
something to fix, always something.
Oh
to work
yeah,
on.
I mean I worked all over Colorado.
That's cool.
Yeah. So
I went to some pretty neat places.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then so you're working here, and you say, "I think I'm gonna go out on my own. I'm gonna hang my own shingle out."
Yeah.
And when did that happen?
Well, April is when I started.
Okay.
I had working on that for quite some time before that, and it was just for me, just being someone who was in an administrative role, I was having a difficult time not being able to provide the level of service that I think is important. I like the idea of not being behind a company, but putting my face out there and being more of like someone's neighbor.
Yeah,
that's kind of what I've tried to portray in my business is like, hey, like I'm a neighbor. I'm just from your neighborhood, and I'd like to help you out the way that I can.
Right.
And I always try to do my very best.
Yeah, kind of like it's your appliance or your mom's even. You're going to take the best care of these folks.
Yeah,
possibly.
I mean, I want to be able to have options to be able to help people in the best way that I can. It's nice being in an owner's role. I mean, just because, hey, if I take a loss for someone to help someone out, I will do that. But obviously, like I have 4 kids and a wife at home, so I have to.
Yeah, mouths to feed.
Yeah,
and like living indoors.
And
that
sometimes,
kind of thing. Yeah.
sometimes my wife says I'm too nice. So.
Yep, I've heard that a few times. So that's okay. I think it all comes back. So tell us about your business. Like if I have a refrigerator that goes down, what do you work on? What don't you work on? That kind of stuff.
Well, I've got a little bit over 11 years of experience. I've worked on every brand. The only ones that I really have issues with are ones that I can't really get parts for.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Most of my turnaround for a full, like an end-to-end repair, is usually, if I can get it out of Charlotte, I can have the parts the next day, and I'm back same, maybe 2 or 3 days to get the parts installed. Yeah. It really just depends on the circumstance. But end to end, I work on any brand, anything.
Any brand, any appliance.
I'm not really afraid of much.
Okay.
That's why I said you could ask me any question.
Yeah. So like ovens, ranges, refrigerators, microwaves, dishwashers.
Appliances.
Any appliance.
Any appliance. I've
had
do
you do HVAC stuff or no?
No, yeah, that's a different license. So I have an EPA license to operate on refrigerators. It's a Type 1.
To get the
and for HVAC, you need a Type 2 because of the different
materials
amount of gas, the different amount of gas that they use.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm going to put you on the spot because there may be some listeners thinking about buying appliances right now. And so from a guy who has 11 years of experience and seen like what breaks down more frequently than not. So what would be, let's say you're in the market for a refrigerator right today. What brands would you suggest people look at?
Well, it's really difficult because if you look at where the origin of all of these parts come from,
it's all the same.
It's all the same place. I mean, really. I mean, you look at like Frigidaire used to be manufactured in Canada, but I think LG's just bought them.
Oh, okay.
So you look at Samsung, they're Korean. LG's Korean, right? So I've heard, I don't know this to be true, but I've heard Samsung and LG are right across the street from one another, and they barter off their engineers.
Oh wow, that's funny.
Yeah. So, but like Whirlpool and GE, I think GE is assembled in the United States, but I'm pretty sure they order their parts from out of country from China. So the major high-end brands that you'll deal with, like Sub-Zero and Wolf and all of those,
Viking,
from what I understand, those ones are still made
in
America. Some Vikings I've actually found LG compressors on, so it's pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that before, but
KitchenAid, are they American made?
Well, they're
that
actually owned by Whirlpool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's just you've seen a lot of that. I mean, laundry's pretty easy. Like I could tell you what laundry to buy.
Yeah, let's do that.
Speed Queen. It's super easy. Yeah, they come with a 5-year warranty. They still have a Metal Gear case. They're great.
I've got a buddy. Yeah, that's all he'll buy is Speed Queen.
Yeah, they're great.
You can't kill it.
Yeah, they're just.
And I'll go in houses and see them, and they look like they're 20 years old and just still rolling.
Yes, I love them. And that's if I'm confident in any recommendation, that's the one.
Speed Queen.
Yeah, laundry is real easy.
Yeah.
Refrigerators. Honestly, like people buy a lot of French door refrigerators, and from an engineering standpoint, there's a lot of challenges. Let's just say that. So I understand it from a user perspective. All your food's up high. You open it, you can see everything.
Yeah, and it makes sense because like the coldest stuff's on the bottom, cold, air drop, so it kind of would be more efficient maybe.
Yeah, it's actually the
freezer.
opposite. Your compressor's down at the bottom.
But your compressor's in the bottom, and it's hot because it's working hard.
So So I mean, and that's the other thing too is like everyone wants ice out of the door, right? So on those French doors,
that's tricky. You got to have a separate ice maker.
You got to get cold air to your fresh food section in order to get your ice to chill, and that adds a whole section of problems. Where a side by side, your ice maker's just in the freezer.
There you go.
So it just eliminates some things, but I like recommending side by sides, but that's usually like a husband and wife thing. Like usually the husband's like, I don't want a French door, and the wife likes how the French door works. Typically,
sure.
I mean, it's different for every couple. But,
I'm a French door guy, but now I'm kind of like, Anyway.
I'm not here to sway you.
That's right.
I don't like to make decisions, but I have opinions.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's excellent. Yeah. What about a dishwasher?
Dishwasher, they're relatively all the same. I mean, really, like if you're gonna go into the higher end brand, I mean, most people love their Bosches, and they'll pay to fix their Bosch because they like them so much. So I usually say, hey, if you want to be happy with something that you buy, but if you look at the difference in prices, usually you can't tell the difference except for the decibel rating. So they're raising prices based off of how quiet they run.
This is true, and I'm a big fan for a quiet dishwasher. What's like for a decibel rating, like where you won't hear it? What is that? Is that a 30 something?
Yeah, it's like 30 or something like that.
Okay.
I mean, maybe 20s and 30s is usually the average now.
Yeah.
And some brands try to cheat it by adding more insulation,
Sure.
but other brands, they use more plastic parts. So it really just depends.
But stainless steel tub is probably the...
Oh, yeah, that's always the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you don't have to deal with losing heat inside there when you're trying to dry your dishes and stuff. So.
Yeah, and it cracks. The plastic cracks over time.
But the plastic actually warps. Like you put it in the cabinet, and you'll see it start to blow out.
Yeah, yeah, and then they don't get a good seal on the door. And
Yep,
then
and they start to leak at the door,
hardwood starts falling apart, and you got to just get a whole new house, and you call me.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so tell us about your business. So you started in April. Is it you just on
me
call
right now,
all the time,
owner-operator.
24/7? Will you come out and fix something, or
Well, I work normal business hours, and I take the weekends because I mean, really, that gives me the opportunity to do what I want to do, and that's spend more time with my family.
Smart.
But yeah, I think that's important.
Sounds like you got your priorities in line.
Yeah, I mean that's number one for me. I obviously will make concessions, but I'm the boss. I can
do whatever you want.
I can choose. So
so I'm a solo entrepreneur as well. Like I make my own decisions on if I go work or not or whatever, and so it's and there are a lot of entrepreneurs hopefully listening, but yeah, you have to make your choices on what you're going to do that day to produce income, right? And so you look at your dollar productivity per hour and how you do that, and marketing. I mean, there's a lot to being a solo business owner, and you gotta, there's a lot on you. So I'm right there with you. So you're in Elizabeth, and if you live in Bristol, will you go fix an appliance in Bristol or Kingsport or Johnson City? What's your territory so that people listening will?
Pretty much anything within 45 minutes is my normal area.
Okay.
So I try not to cross state lines just because that goes into a whole bunch of different tax reasons and stuff like that. But if I can get to Johnson City, I go to Johnson City. If I can get to Jonesboro, I go to Jonesboro. I mean, I'll pretty much go anywhere I can get a call.
Yeah.
Johnson City's been a tough one to crack, though, because you guys have a lot of appliance repair guys in the area, and Google Maps locates me in Elizabeth, and so
yes.
I get a lot of like Roan Mountain, I even get calls from like Boone and stuff
Yeah,
like that. So,
yeah.
Which isn't a problem, but I'm trying to get in
More
Johnson
break
City is
into the
the
market.
one.
That's
is the
interesting.
one,
You
yeah.
say there's a lot of them. I think I know of 2, but maybe that is a lot.
I've worked for a few.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Well, I've worked for one really, but I
Yeah,
know the
but
rest.
you know the
yeah.
rest of them. I gotcha. Yeah. So we manage a bunch of property for people, and we're always looking for a great appliance guy. So we will help you break into the Johnson City market.
I
promise.
appreciate any referral.
No, it'd be my pleasure for sure. Okay, so how would let's say that our listener their dryer just broke and they need help. What's the best way to connect with you?
Just call me or text me. I mean, that's the easiest way. I don't have time to be on social media or check my emails when I'm working on stuff. I do plan on fixing that, hiring people in the future.
Sure.
Growth is always the goal of any entrepreneur, but right now it's just me. So, I mean, if I'm in a customer's house, I've got my Bluetooth earbud, I'll answer the phone,
While you're digging into a washing machine or whatever.
Machine.
Yeah.
If a text is more convenient, I'll text you back, I was up in Mountain City yesterday without service, and the only way that I can combat that is I get all my calls forwarded to my wife. So you might get her sometimes. That's only when I'm out of service because she's busy.
She's homeschooling.
got her hands
She's
full.
got her hands full for sure, for sure. So what's that number? If you want to give out the number, and we'll put it in the show notes as well. But
it's
for our listeners.
423-647-3399.
All right. Mm-hmm. And you can call him, and he'll sing to you. He might scream a little bit, but he'll also
I even help people try to diagnose over the phone.
That's cool.
I don't charge for that. And referrals, like if they mention you guys, $20 coupon.
Oh, look at that. Johnson City Living Podcast, you get $20 off. That's a good deal.
Yeah, not on my diagnosis, but on a repair.
On your free diagnosis, you'll give $20 off. Over the phone.
Hey, remember how I said my wife is too nice and I don't charge people?
Right. I love it. So tell me about your family. Tell me your wife's name and your kids, and what do you guys like to do for fun?
We like the mountains. We do a lot of hiking when we can. We homeschool. My son just finished soccer. I helped coach that team.
Oh, awesome.
I wasn't the coach, but I helped.
Sure.
So my wife, Erin, and then Talon's my only son. He's my oldest. He's about to turn 13.
Your firstborn?
Yeah.
13, wow.
Yeah, his name's very Viking-like. It's Talon von Schlegel.
Dude,
so,
you are Thor, and you.
I try,
from the family of the Hammer.
And then next is Brooklyn. And she's 10. They're all spaced 2 years apart. So, and then Ashton, and then Ellison.
Those are beautiful names.
Yeah.
And beautiful kids too.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. So mountains, you like to get out and hike?
Yeah, when I can. I'm a gun guy, which was great moving to Tennessee.
Yeah.
Helped out a lot. But hiking, camping. I mean, that's what we like. And whatever we can. But one of our big things when we moved here was we wanted to get a piece of land, and
So you shoot on your own land then?
Well, I can. I don't have enough.
Oh, okay.
It's not safe, so I go to other places. But
for our listeners, where do you like to go? If you're in Elizabeth and you like to shoot, where are you headed?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of public spaces. Mm-hmm. There's one up by Watauga. There's actually one in Irwin as well, and it's $2 parking, and then you shoot what you want. I mean, it's great.
That's cool.
But one of the places I like to go, which he doesn't know that I'm gonna tell you guys, but it's this place in Mountain City called Range 51.
Ooh.
And it's the cheapest training that I could find in the area.
Yeah.
He's really great. Former Special Forces guys train there, and they run the classes there, and it's definitely worth the trip.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's in Mountain City.
Cool.
So
that would be worth the drive to get. I need to get my carry permit. And
that was the first thing I did when I moved here.
Right. I know. I'm like,
well, Tennessee now is carry for anyone, but
in the car, and I don't think you can. Can you?
It's now constitutional carry state from what I know.
Yeah.
Which means that you can. But I thought getting the license was a better move because you have what's called reciprocity.
That's what I was talking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you like in your Bristol, you go and you walk across the state line, well, you're breaking the law in Virginia.
Unless you have the license.
Unless you have the permit. That's right. The license. Yeah. So I think that's wise.
Yeah.
So Carly and I need to go get ours for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is something that you are working on kind of in your life right now besides appliances?
Besides appliances,
Because you're a music guy, you're a church guy, you're a dad. You got what else is it?
The
You said you're
big
also a car guy.
thing is my mom's moving here.
Is she?
Yeah. All my siblings and everything. They moved to Northern California.
Okay.
After my dad passed away.
I'm sorry.
So my mom's been up there living on her own, and she's having a hard time. But that's the crazy thing is everyone that I've talked to that's moving here from California, and I ask people because I'm in their houses, is they all want a change of pace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they really like what Tennessee has to offer.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they like everything about this place, and they don't want to change anything. And honestly, sometimes I find that they're more serious about that than the people that grew up here.
And honestly, I think having started the podcast, doing the podcast, started doing it. Leighton started it, but yeah, I mean, like it's given me a newfound kind of respect for our area, maybe, or appreciation for it's probably the better word, because we grew up here and we just kind of take it for granted a little bit. And so then you start seeing everybody coming here and you're like, oh, we do have something special. And then when you hear it over and over and over, because I do, which is a blessing, but yeah, I mean, we're just blessed to be here. It's awesome.
Well, you guys figured it out early, and there is so much to offer, out here, and it's just really nice, like moving into a place and not feeling ostracized.
Yeah.
People are very accepting and welcoming.
We are, for sure, and there is a reason. I keep telling everybody who moves here, and they think, and I say it over and over on the podcast too. I'm like, come check it out. Vote, maybe start voting in like 10 years. Don't screw it up. There's a reason you came here. It's going great. Just enjoy it. I promise we got it under control. It's going to be okay. And so, I jokingly say that, but yeah, anyway, what's something that I didn't ask you that I should have? Anything you want to share with our listening group?
Well, we talked a little bit about politics. I guess
go ahead. Yeah.
What's my
Throw it out
political
there.
leaning?
I love it.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, if you want to.
I mean, really, I would consider myself in my personal life right-leaning, if that makes sense, but somewhere in the middle, if that
more
makes
like
sense.
Commonsensical.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
If I were to put a label on it, I would say the Constitution and more of a libertarian perspective. If that makes sense.
Yeah, and libertarian. I mean, but it's more on the conservative side, right?
Yeah, it definitely leans conservative, and that's in my own life. I'm fully conservative. Yeah, but I do think that the Constitution was written to give us the freedoms to choose for ourselves, just like God offers us the ability to choose for ourselves.
Yes, and and over and over, our country's based on "In God We Trust." Over, it's on the dollar, and then it's on your coins and stuff, and so. It's sad that we're getting away from that, and I think that's part of the reason the country's a little bit in turmoil. So I'm praying that He reconciles our country back to Him. Brings us all back to Him. Because He hadn't gone anywhere. We've just.
Well, I think the adults in the room know that civil discourse is super important.
Yeah. Oh, I think it is good to talk about it for sure.
Yeah.
We're not going to get anywhere by not talking about it. So. Do you have a website our listeners can go to?
Yeah, RelianceApplianceTN.com.
RelianceApplianceTN.com. Okay. And then I do a little Fired Up Friday video. It sounds like guns get you fired up.
Oh, yeah.
What's your favorite thing to shoot?
Oh, I have an AR-15.
Oh, yeah.
That's
a fun one.
That's the freedom gun,
That's right. Better buy your AR-15s while you can. That's right. Dustin is not selling his, but you could.
I'll be holding on to mine.
All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really enjoyed hanging out with you. I'm excited for our listeners to connect with you. And unfortunately, if our listeners have an issue with their appliance, which is sometimes frustrating, but they'll have a great guy to connect with. And I can just tell that you're going to take excellent care of them and us in the future as well. So thanks so much. It's been a pleasure. And thank you guys for listening. And I can't wait for you to come back for the next conversation. I am Colin Johnson with the Colin and Carly Group. If you want to make a move to Johnson City, connect with me. If you want your mom to move to Johnson City, I'd love to help with that as well. If you want to do, you need if you want to build wealth in real estate, we're really excited about helping people do that too. We'll manage the property, turnkey it all. You don't have to do anything except invest, and we would love to walk you through that process too. So have a great fall. Love you guys. Till next time. See you. Bye.